Hi guys, it's Michelle. So today's video is going to be another childhood ruining conspiracy theories video. I haven't filmed a video in a long time, so excuse me if I'm a little weird. Yeah, I kind of was just like having a bad mental week. Like I was just feeling kind of down, to be honest, but I'm feeling a lot better, so hopefully everything goes well. I hate being not consistent. Like I literally used to upload every single day, like Monday to Monday, like literally not even skipping the weekends. Sometimes I just kind of suck, so that's just the tea. But yeah, hopefully I'm feeling better, so I have a lot of shit planned. Like that's the tea. I keep saying that's the tea. Me and Elle say this all the time. I have a lot of stuff planned for this week and next week, and like just like in general, just like a lot of ideas in my head. But yeah, so I'm excited to finally execute them because I feel weird taking a break. Like I actually hate it, but it stresses me out even more, which is like the annoying thing, is that I always think, okay, a nice little break, but like really it just like stresses me out a lot. But either way, let's get into the conspiracy theories. So the first conspiracy theories we're going to be talking about revolves around two iconic TV shows, the Jetsons and the Flintstones. So the conspiracy theory is that the Jetsons and the Flintstones are actually occurring in the same universe at the same time. From what we understand about the Flintstones, this wouldn't make any sense because basically the Flintstones like assumes to take place really long ass time ago, specifically like the Stone Age. It wouldn't make sense because we know that the Jetsons is supposed to take place super far ahead in the future. However, what if the Flintstones actually does take place in the future, but a post-apocalyptic future? I think the theory actually makes a lot of sense. It's essentially that the Flintstones live in a post-apocalyptic Earth where it's basically just a wasteland at this point because of how badly the nuclear war was, and basically the Earth couldn't handle a nuclear war, which would probably be the case if a nuclear war were to happen right now, which is kind of scary. Because I really don't think that our Earth would like hold up that much. So this would explain the 1987 crossover between the Jetsons and the Flintstones called The Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, which is basically when Elroy creates a time machine because he wants to send his family even further into the future, but he accidentally goes to the past, and then that's where they meet the Flintstones and they end up in bedrock. However, what we know from the Jetsons is that they live in the sky because of the wasteland that Earth had become. We know this is exactly what they say happened. Maybe after the apocalypse or the nuclear war that happened in the Flintstone and Jetson world, the Jetsons were like a more wealthy family, so they were able to continue their lives in the sky. However, the Flintstones were like maybe a less wealthy family, I don't know, something like that, where they for some reason couldn't also join the Jetsons and anyone else who was living in the sky to protect themselves from the wasteland that is Earth. So when the Jetsons take the time machine and it malfunctions, it's supposed to take them back into the past, which is where they meet the Flintstones. However, what if it actually just took them to Earth instead of taking them all the way back to the Stone Age? It just took them to Earth and they just assumed that it was the past because it looked like the Stone Age. The Flintstones is basically that, and they don't even pretty much remember what Earth looked like when they left it. I don't know, it's pretty freaking interesting, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Like, low-key, I kind of believe it. The next conspiracy theory is really freaking rude, and it's about Hannah Montana. Honestly, this one just kind of messed me up a little bit too far. I was a little shook by it. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, because I feel like I've low-key read this theory before, and I feel like I have, but I'm just gonna talk about it again because it's a small theory, but whatever. It freaks me out, and it really annoys me, but it actually kind of makes sense to me. But it's essentially the idea that in Hannah Montana, Robbie Ray, like when moving out to California, he figured that at some point Miley was going to be having to tell her secret. She's a teenage girl. It's like, I don't know, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm not a teenage girl anymore, which is actually really terrifying, and like, I don't want to think about it, but like, anyway, as a teenager, like, I feel like you're just naturally like going to tell secrets that you have or that somebody else tells you. Like, I don't know, maybe you're a really good secret keeper, but I feel like I at least have to tell like one or two people just to get it out of my system. So don't trust me is basically what I'm saying. I mean, no, I'll like tell like my sister, so it's like never even that deep. But like, at least like I have to tell someone, you know what I mean? So maybe Robbie Wright took this into consideration and was like, Miley's gonna fuck up basically and tell her friggin' secret that she's Hannah Montana and it's gonna ruin everything. So what he did to take precaution was hire 2 actors to play Miley's friends, Lily Truscott and Oliver Oaken. Like, what? His idea was like to hire these 2 people, like basically like, you know, become friends with her, grow a relationship with her so that when the time was right, Miley would spill the tea, spill her secrets about Hannah Montana. So he was like, this is a really good idea because we can trust these people, we're paying them, and Miley will eventually need to spill her secret because she's just a normal teenager. And then at least she's spilling into people who we know we can trust, and the secret will be kept secret. So I think this is really weird. Also, it's like theorized that apparently like after like a while, obviously when you like start faking something for a while, I feel like you start to believe it. So they did end up becoming friends, and that's why they continued to remain in Miley's life even after she spilled the secret to them. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really necessarily believe it because I feel like I doubt that that was the intentions of the writers, but it does fit into the storyline and it's kind of creepy. But what do you guys think of that one? I feel like that one's like the most like ruining. Like it's just, that's just really sad. The next conspiracy theories we're going to talk about revolves around the Simpsons. So a lot of people have been talking about this. I've done a whole video about Simpsons predictions and the things that the show predicted, which I will link in the description box below. Though I haven't heard the majority of people talking about why or how the Simpsons are predicting things. They're just saying that they're predicting things and they're like, oh my gosh, so creepy, like Illuminati 666. But what if that's like actually true? Now, basically this conspiracy theory, I don't know if I necessarily believe it either. It's essentially that the creator of The Simpsons, Matt Groening, actually is a Freemason. That whole world is kind of complex to me still, which is kind of why I want to do an entire video on the Freemasons and the Illuminati. So if you guys would want that, let me know in the comments below so that I can understand better. But essentially I know that it has something to do with the Illuminati, but then also it's like Freemasons could be like a normal thing as well. Basically this conspiracy theory is saying that he's a Freemason and that means the Simpsons are connected to the Illuminati overall. Basically they're saying that when they write these like little things that happen, as such as like Trump being president, like they said this in 2000 and obviously 16 years later he was actually sadly elected. Conspiracy theory wise, they're basically saying that this whole company is run by people of the Illuminati and they're like giving us little hints or like looks into the future with the sense of The Simpsons, like with just using that and saying, oh, like here's like this 9/11 poster just so you guys know like this will be relevant in a few years from now, which is basically what happened on The Simpsons in like the 90s. There's a ton of writers, they're all very like modern, and they basically write things that they think are funny or would be funny if they did happen, but they're also not really that far off. Like for example, a lot of the writers spoke out once Trump was actually elected and they were like talking about it and they were like, yeah, like at the time in 2000 we thought like who would be like the most ridiculous person to be president like ever, and they were like Donald Trump, which is tea because true. I find that really interesting because I feel like that makes, obviously that's like the logical thing. It is interesting to go to the conspiracy theory side and be like, what if it's all like the Illuminati and they're trying to tell us and warn us what's gonna happen, and basically essentially that they're taking over the world and they control everything that happens, which is a terrifying thought. But I don't think that they would express it in the form of The Simpsons. So what I do think, it's very common. Like the things that happen are not that far off from like things that could happen. There has been 629 episodes of The Simpsons. That's a lot of episodes. Like that's a lot. That's like a long ass running show. It's like pretty obvious that at some point they are going to predict things or like make jokes about things that may possibly happen actually in the future. But what do you guys think about The Simpsons? Do you think something creepier is going on? Do you think it's just the fact that there are tons of like young writers who like are just, you know, coming up with ideas of like, oh, this would be funny if Trump was president. This would be so crazy if like blah blah blah. Like, they're not saying things that are completely out of the blue. Well, to be honest, they probably thought Donald Trump being president was completely out of the blue. And so did we, sis. What do you guys think? I would love to know. Next two conspiracy theories kind of loosely revolve around Harry Potter. So, I mean, if you know the basics, which you probably do, you'll probably understand these theories. So the first one comes from Wizards of Waverly Place. Wizards of Waverly Place was probably one of my favorite Disney Channel shows of all time. Literally iconic. But essentially the idea is that Wizards of Waverly Place takes place in a world where Voldemort actually beat Harry Potter. We get this idea from the episode of My Tutor Tutor, and this was essentially when they say leprechaun kept in cages to gawk at, elves get named based on what job they're going to have, tutors aren't ever allowed to revisit the family that they worked with again. That this is all very like seeming like wizards are superior, which was a lot of the mentality before Harry Potter won the battle with Voldemort, because like house elves were treated like shit. Like other animals and creatures in the wizarding world were basically treated poorly unless you were a wizard. Also, there are many instances within the show where Alex and her family have to defeat evil wizards, which makes no sense because if it were post Harry Potter winning time, why would they have to defeat evil? Because like any of the Death Eaters that like existed after Harry Potter, like it seemed like everything was like all is well, like everything was chill after Harry Potter won, because no one had the kind of power like Voldemort had. I guess it is possible that another type of person like Voldemort rose to power, but essentially we can assume that in this world Voldemort exists still and he is like the leader of the wizard world. So I don't necessarily think that good doesn't exist. In fact, I think Professor Crumb is like a relative of Dumbledore, because obviously it's like a play on Dumbledore, like he's British and old and has like a white beard, like obviously, and he's a wizard, like, and he's like the headmaster, so it's obvious that he's like a joke about Dumbledore. So I think the good wizards still exist, and in fact I think wizard tech actually kind of proves this theory further. I always thought that it was just like a joke or a nod to Harry Potter. They wear the circle glasses at wizard tech, which could also be the case. But I think it's actually interesting that what if they wear the glasses at school in like memory of Harry Potter, in like showing like out of respect in a way for the guy who tried to save their lives but couldn't defeat evil and was killed by Voldemort. I don't know. It's a possibility. It kind of freaks me out because to think of a world where Harry Potter actually like didn't win would be kind of scary, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Or maybe it's during all of this shit. Or maybe it's before Harry Potter. Like, well, that wouldn't really make sense because the show's very 2000s, but who really knows? That's the tea. What do you guys think about that one? And the other Harry Potter conspiracy theory that I want to talk about revolves around the whole wizarding world being real. So this one's like obviously a joke conspiracy theory, but I found it pretty cute. Basically, it's the idea that J.K. Rowling is actually Rita Skeeter. So Rita Skeeter is just an annoying ass bitch. Basically a reporter during Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire who was just so annoying and was like always coming up with false stories because that bitch just wanted the tea. Like she wanted the dirt. She wanted to like basically like TMZ. And the theory is that the entire wizarding world of Harry Potter actually exists, and in this world Rita Skeeter was a real person who was exiled from the wizard world, so she had to move to the Muggle world. So when she moved to the Muggle world, she took on the name of J.K. Rowling and then decided to expose the wizard world by writing all of these Harry Potter books. However, the Muggle world, aka the people, us, literally Earth, took these books and read them as fiction, and they were always sorted as fiction, so it ended up just making J.K. Rowling, aka Rita Skeeter, really rich and famous, so she didn't care. But basically it's the idea that the whole Harry Potter world actually exists, which is a nice thought. Like I wish, like literally I wish, but obviously it's probably not true. Do you like how I say probably? I'm 20 years old and I'm like, still maybe Harry Potter is real. But yeah. The last conspiracy theory that we are going to talk about revolves around the Fairly Odd Parents. So I've already talked about the theory where basically Cosmo and Wanda are meant to represent Zoloft and Prozac, which are antidepressants. However, this is a very much darker conspiracy theory than that. The theory basically goes that Timmy Turner is basically a young boy that plays with his fish because his actual human godparents died in a terrible car crash. Then these people were really important to Timmy, and he loved them so much that he pretended that his fish were actually his fairy godparents. He like took on this idea like, oh, they're watching over me, this is like their way of watching over me, even though it was just all in his imagination. Which makes a lot of sense because all of his wishes don't have lasting consequences. It's very likely to be in his head. And also it goes even darker when it's theorized that Mr. Crocker actually made sexual advances on Timmy Turner for years, and he was always trying to steal Timmy's fairies, which is basically a euphemism for representing like his innocence, steal his innocence, which is so messed up and so dark. I don't know who comes up with this shit. It's kind of scary and I don't like it. It makes me sad. That is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Like I said, let me know in the comments what you think about all these conspiracy theories. I would love to hear your opinions. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram because I'm always posting really dope ass shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hopefully go be back to being consistent because I hate not being consistent. It grosses me out, but every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I will see you guys all on Wednesday. Bye!
He walks away, the sun goes down, he takes the day, but I'm grown, and in your way, in this blue shade, my tears dry on their own. I don't understand, why do I stress the man?